What if one political decision had the power not only to reshape Britain's borders, but to redefine what this country stands for? And what if that moment is happening right now, while most people barely realize its scale? Today we dive into a dramatic shift in Britain's asylum and immigration system, one that raises questions about power, justice, identity, and the future of the UK itself. The Home Secretary has announced sweeping changes that could rewrite decades of immigration policy. But what pushed the government to take such an extreme direction? And why now? Are these reforms about safety, stability, and fairness? Or are they a response to political pressure, public frustration, and rising tensions across the country? We begin with a bold move: the threat to ban Angola, Namibia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo from accessing UK visas if they refuse to take back illegal migrants. But what does this mean for Britain's diplomatic ties? Is this a necessary ultimatum or a dangerous escalation? And who truly benefits when international relationships are placed under such strain? The Home Secretary insists that, in Britain, we play by the rules. So what happens when other nations refuse to play by them too? And should entire populations lose visa rights because their governments are uncooperative? At the same time, ministers are considering whether migrants' assets, from bank accounts to cars, should be seized to pay for their accommodation. Is this a fair expectation? Where is the line between responsibility and punishment? And who decides what counts as a personal item and what counts as an asset? Questions continue to rise as critics compare the reforms to Denmark's strict asylum model. Should Britain follow a European system where refugee status is constantly reviewed? Would this make the UK safer or more divided? And how will refugee families cope with the uncertainty of being reassessed every 2 years? Within Parliament, the reaction is far from unified. Labour MPs warn of wrong turnings and fear the reforms risk fueling division. Conservatives say the changes are too small and too slow. Nigel Farage claims the Home Secretary sounds like a reform supporter. So who exactly is this policy trying to satisfy? And can any government ever truly fix immigration in the way voters demand? Meanwhile, the government faces another challenge: the European Court of Human Rights. If the UK tightens its interpretation of the convention, will Strasbourg push back? What happens when domestic law collides with international obligations? Could Britain find itself locked in a legal battle that limits the very reforms ministers are promising? And then comes the most personal question of all. What does this mean for the people behind the headlines, those fleeing danger, those seeking safety, and those looking for a new start in Britain? Are these reforms a necessary step to restore public trust? Or will they create new injustices and new risks? As frustration over illegal migration grows, the Home Secretary warns of dark forces stirring up anger. Is this a warning about extremism, or a sign that political leaders fear the consequences of their own rhetoric? And can Britain secure its borders without deepening divisions within its own communities? With the biggest changes to the asylum system in modern times now on the table, the country faces a fundamental question. What kind of Britain do we want to be? A nation of strict enforcement? A nation of open doors? Or something in between? And perhaps the most important question of all, will any of these reforms actually work?